Thursday nights will never be the same again. Thursday Night Chat. You're on the spot.
Tonight's episode pays tribute to the talents and the spirit of volunteerism of Concert King, Mr. Martin Nievera, and talk show host par excellence, Mr. Boy Abunda. Both were recent guests in Dumaguete as part of the series of activities to launch in the city the Erwin P. Cabanag Adult Leukemia Memorial Foundation, or EPCALM. Last Thursday, on Thursday Night Chat, we had as guests EPCALM founder Dr. Erlene Cabanag Demere and Grief Management Counselor Ms. Mel Erickson. We are replaying tonight the interview of Boy Abunda with Martin Nievera, which was held at the Silliman Hall on May 9. Let's watch and enjoy this.
You got everything you need.
If you're sad, if you apply the words to your situation, a happy song, a rock song, a rap song, all of that can make you cry, even in the inside.
Right. What happens backstage, Mars, when times are not so good? What happens backstage? You're about to go on stage, entertain, make people happy, but you're crawling in grief. Not just because, grief is usually attached to the word loss. You lose something. You lose somebody you love. You lose, in our business, you lose a project. You lose a song. Something dies along the way.
You lose your voice.
You lose your voice.
You lose your desire. It becomes so like clockwork. I have a show here, I have a show there, I have to be here, I have to make it on time for Bus ng Bayan, then I have to be in time for Bandila. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It becomes routine. Just like the rest of you in your jobs, sometimes it becomes routine. You're looking for something, you're searching for something to help fulfill a void in your life, a space in your emotion that you don't know what it is. So for a singer like myself, I speak for myself, I use that. I use that emotion, I use that empty feeling that I have, and hopefully, like when I sang kahit isang saglit, talagang ginamit ko yung pain
To be able to interpret the song.
I could
But
never
Mars-
sing that song the same twice, put it that way.
I believe you. Totoo ho yun. Like, he has not done that song,
You can't sing it the same way twice.
the same way twice. Yes. But here it is. After you do a song, after you use, for example, the grief as a tool to be able to interpret the song, what happens after the song? Is the grief diminished? Do you go back to where you were? What happens?
Actually, it feels really good. Because you're for me again, as the singer of the song, it builds up inside you. I'm almost dying to sing it. Parang ilalabas ko lang. I mean, just to get it out there. If you carry a weight too often, you can barely walk sometimes. Can you imagine performing, singing, smiling, laughing, interacting with happy people like all of you here? It's very, very hard when you're not happy inside. So it took a lot of training for me to pretend I'm happy, to go through what I was going through, looking happy, looking victorious. For a man, especially a man in show business, to be that naked to the world is a very, very haunting feeling. And I have to carry that with me for many, many years. Sometimes to this day, I may have some relapses when you try and go back to that place. But sometimes I use that for my work. If I have to do a song, and the Jonathan Manalos of the world teach me how to sing a song, they want me to sound like I'm crying inside, I say, I know how to do that. Or they want you to make an emotion that is both whispering and at the same time screaming a whisper. I know how to do that. Because I've been through it. I've really been through it.
Right. But what I was saying is, the song helps you let out, the grief in you. Let me be more specific. At a time, for example, when you were having troubles, you were having troubles in your life, personally. You're doing so well in your craft, in your career, but you were crawling. I use the word crawling. Ogie Alcacid, our friend, one time in my interview with him, said that every major singer or performer went through a phase in his life when he was gutted. Para may konsilyo daw na iginaganon sa puso. You feel better after a performance. I mean, as a person going through something real. That's what you're trying to say. Mark, let me ask you. As a person, what was the lowest point of your life?
As a person, I have so many low moments in my life. There's not one that's better than
What
the other.
comes to mind first when you say grieving, or when you hear the word grief? What comes to mind first?
Well, of course, the loss. When I lost my grandfather, who was so against my becoming a singer. I'm a singer today because my grandfather was against it.
Tell us more about it. Tell us more about it. Why was your grandfather against it?
My grandfather was my mother's father. Was very much into education. He was a captain in a ship. That was his job. He would be the one to tow ships from the outside ocean into the Manila harbor. That was his job. But for him, education was everything, and I wanted to be a singer. My father was a singer, and my grandfather saw him and his marriage slowly sailing away. He could see this happen.
Just like the ships.
Exactly, yeah. So he didn't want that to happen for me, because you must get an education. Promise me you'll get an education and you can do whatever you want. And then one day he saw Betamax tape. A Betamax tape of me performing in California, in my junior high school year in California. And he put his hand against his face and he says, "This guy belongs on the stage. Who am I to say where his dreams should go?" So before he could tell me himself, he told my mother, his daughter, "Never mind what I said. He can always go back to school. Let him sing." But he never told it to me. So we've never had this conversation where I actually see here I am going through my whole career thinking my grandfather was against it. And now I'm against it with my children. Stay in school, don't be singers, Oh, that's how it works, right? We inherit these kind of rules, but the lesson there is we have to let our children dream their own dreams. And hopefully we live long enough to see them realized, yes? So for me, that would be one. The fact that I was not able to have this kind of conversation. My grandfather never saw me perform ever, except on that Betamax. So that would be one. Another would be the things that still happen, even just the other day when I have a son in Las Vegas, I have two sons here. When one of them goes through something and I'm not physically there, my God, my whole day, my whole week, sometimes my whole month. Because I'm one person who really lives with guilt. Are you like that? That where every day, every night you're living through guilt, you're carrying guilt from other people and you're blaming yourselves. I mean, I even blame myself for the war in Afghanistan. I mean, everything.
No, he's not joking.
It's true. Boy knows me very well. I'm one man, I don't know any other man, who accepts willingly. Okay, kasalanan ko. Sorry. My fault. Para matapos na, so we can go on with life. I don't like confrontation.
Because he wants everybody happy.
I want everyone happy.
He wants to be liked. He enjoys being liked. He likes everybody.
Even in a heavy world, I want to be liked. My choice is to be liked. And because of that, I let so many things slide.
Right.
And so I go through life with grief because I have all of this weight that I carry.
Right. March, when you talk about loss, what were the biggest losses you had in your life?
I'm with my
Of course, grandfather.
Yeah,
Okay.
grandfather.
But take me to the moment, for example, when it seems like Lolo was one of the most important people in my life. All right. He was one of the most important people in your lives. When he passed on, what was it like? How did a young Martin Nievera manage manage that loss?
Ooh, very badly because I was 16 years old, barely 17. I just got my license to drive, and I was very far away from the house, maybe an hour away. I was learning how to sing. Then my mom calls and says, "You need to come home now because your grandfather passed away." That's all she said, because she was freaking out on the phone. So how did I handle it? Physically, first, on the moment of knowing that my grandfather died, I had to drive home by myself. I've never been so sure. I was all over the road like that. So there's like 7 lanes, but I was banging the manibela and screaming. I think that's the first time I ever had a real close encounter with God. Because I was just a kid, and they teach you religion, and they teach you what the Bible says, and you're kind of listening, you know. You're not really paying attention. Well, here it is. I just lost someone very, very special. He was my roommate for many, many years when he would visit us in the States, so we were very close. So I went crazy. I don't know how I got home. Someone led me, someone else was driving that night because of all the way to my house. Then years, months, weeks later, I mean, the way my mom would teach me about how to pray and how not to pray. At that time, she just wanted me to be open with my emotions, and if I can't do it with them, go to a private, quiet place, like before you sleep, before you pray, and just let it out. That's one of the first times I learned how to not keep it inside, because it was killing me. It was eating me up inside.
Let it out, meaning crying,
talking. Don't not talk. Syempre, at that time, you don't want to tell your parents. We weren't talking in the way how kids and parents talk nowadays, back in the late 70s.
Were you angry that Lolo was gone?
I was very angry because I wanted to show him, prove to him that I can be a singer. I will be a singer like my father. And I don't know, many people don't know this, but my grandmother, his wife, was an opera singer. Not too many people know that. That's really where I got my singing, is from my mom's side, not even my dad's side. My mom can't sing at all, oh my God, not even a little. But her mother, my Lola, was an opera singer. So, in a way, I had so much I wanted to prove to my grandfather that I probably am doing now without really trying. But back at that time, I was very angry because I wanted him to see. I wanted to show off. I wanted to show to him, to prove to him that I can stick to a plan. I can really follow a dream and stick to it, which I've done in the last 31 years. And that's what I try and hope and pray that my kids will do as well. You have to have a dream. You need to dream big.
How long was this process? How long? And remember, you were 17. You were 16, diba? And when did you realize that I have accepted the truth that Lolo was gone?
I don't really remember the time or the age. But I think when my mom had to leave for the funeral, during the funeral, I think was the time that we realized, well, this is for real. You know, and being a kid at 16, 17 years old, it was very hard for us to, first of all, we had to live on our own because we had no parents. They went to the Philippines to bury Lolo. So, but I'm trying to remember it now. I haven't thought about this for many, many years. But it took me a while to get used to it. But the whole fact that he was gone, it took me to the funeral.
Are there some moments in your life today when, this just comes back, and I want to sing this song for Lolo? I still want to prove to Lolo that I could actually sing. I want to let him know that if in the beginning he didn't want me to sing, that even if he didn't tell me personally that I could actually pursue my dreams, this one is for him.
There's a concert I did. I don't know if you really are a Martin Nievera follower. There's like 3 or 4 still left in this world. If you look at my albums before, you'll find there's a captain's hat. There's the hat of a captain of a ship.
That's right.
You remember that?
Yeah.
So from my very first album, I wanted my grandfather, even though he wasn't physically there to support me, I wanted his presence somewhere. So on all of my past albums, and then even in my concerts, the very last encore, my sister will throw the hat in the air and I'll catch it and I'll kiss it to the sky. That's how my whole career started, kissing this hand. Every last encore or in every album in the back, there's a one snapshot of the hand.
To pay homage
Yes.
to Lord. To pay homage to Lord. Every conversation discovers something about Martin Nievera.
Aside know that, you didn't
I
know
didn't
that.
know. See, I don't know this story. I am listening for the first time to this story, and it's just it just expands, you know, that whole view I have of the very human Martin Nievera. But aside from the loss of Lolo, is there any other loss, not necessarily death, that almost killed you?
Well, when my marriage went sour, when I failed in my marriage, that was bad enough. But the one that really killed me was when my career died because of it. Because of my failed marriage, which really sounds crazy. If any of your marriages fail, no matter what you do, you still have that job tomorrow, right? But my phone stopped ringing completely, and I was defeated. So I left the country, I rebelled, I changed the color of my, I don't know what I changed.
So just as a background, it's just a background.
Yeah.
Because he was a bad guy, because he broke the marriage. I mean, people, we don't know the stories, the complete stories of what happens to people and superstars like Martin Nievera. But that was a bad time because nagkahiwalay na nga, hindi nga nag-work in marriage, tapos apektado ang career. Because this guy is not one to defend himself by telling his narrative in context. If he has to say nothing, and that's rare, and if he has to say something which people don't understand, just to save the ass of someone else, that's what he does. Not really much. And that's what you've been doing. So when he says that at a certain point when his marriage didn't work, it greatly affected his career. And believe me, in our business, that can be worse than death. That can be worse than death. Because you're not able to do the thing that you want to do. And when Martin says, the phone stops ringing, it's death. You know, can you imagine when people are not interested anymore to listen to you sing, and bookers are not talking to you anymore, and while others are still actively singing? That was bad. That was bad. How did you handle that?
Well, it wasn't easy. I think I'm still, believe it or not, even to this day, I find myself making habol, most catching up with something with the times. Because back then, I don't know if you remember, Boy, but when the shows like The Buzz and so on would interview me, what's your biggest fear? That's always a common question, and I always say failure. Failure is my biggest fear. When I started in showbiz, there was no one else. There were so very few singers at the time doing what I was doing, so I was flying high. The phone never stopped ringing. It was non-stop, and I was loving it. I was loving it to a fault as a very young age, and I would love to give advice to all these new up-and-coming singers and actors that this whole fame thing is overrated, because back then I thought I was it, and that was it. The moment you think that you are what people are calling you and your best write-ups and your best reviews, that's the end of your career. And it happened fast for me. The fame came fast and the failure came right away as well. So it became my standard answer. What is your biggest fear? Failure. And then when my marriage failed, on my hands, on my watch, my whole career just folded. That for me was more shameful than screwing around. That for me was, I could live with that. But not the whole fact that, what? That you got someone else to do the show? Oh my God, my ratings are bad. I have no more concerts. I used to do a concert 2 or 3 times a year. Big, major concert, and then it just stopped. So somehow I let the competition catch up with me because of allowing myself to fail and living within that failure I didn't want to snap out of it. It's like as if I enjoyed being a failure. And it was so hard to pick up the pieces and pick up the pace once again. And when I did, it was the best feeling. It was like getting your second wind when you're running and in my case, getting your second win in showbiz is almost unheard of. And now to see myself on ASAP after 31 years, I'm the oldest guy on that show. Do you know that?
Yes, I know that. But you're the best. He's the oldest, but he's the best in that show.
I asked Johnny Manahan, are you sure you still want me on this show? With all these young, good-looking, guys with abs and so on.
And most of them can't sing.
Those who can't sing. Are you sure you don't want those people instead? No, because if you leave, ASAP is over. Because I'm the dinosaur there. I'm the one who started ASAP. I'm the one who started the new ABS-CBN. So I take everything personally now that, when you get older, everything nakakapikon na, diba? So, it's just a miracle that you can get your second win. So I'm just so blessed that the people allowed it.
The marriage when Ori, career was bad. What did you do? I'll be more specific. Do you have people you go to talk about? Where do you draw the strength? And what have become of your relationship with your God during those times?
We've never been closer. So to the point where God's going already, yes, I know. Every time I'm about to pray, oh yeah, I got it.
But there were times when you were angry. There were times when you were questioning. There were times when you would talk to him and say, why are you doing this?
The beginning of my career, I was just 19 years old. I have a scene in my mind where I went down the altar of the church where I ended up getting married, but at the same church.
I know that.
Beginning was there. And I went there and I said, what? Swearing, say it. What the fuck? What did I do?
So, yan, nasa simbahan mo ito.
This is in front of the cross. In church. What am I doing wrong? Am I not doing everything right? Why is everybody bothering me? Why is everybody wanting to have a piece of me? Why do my parents and everyone was on my case at that time. See, when you get the outcome, what happens?
You were venting in front of God.
I was, and it was really, I regret it.
Did you feel good after?
No, I didn't. I felt awful. I felt awful.
Let's go to that time, because this happened when you were very new. When your marriage broke, when it didn't work, and the career was bad, how was that relationship with God?
I was ashamed. I remember going to church. Then I became Christian. I was Catholic at that time. Then I became born-again Christian and went to the New Life Church in Alabama. And I told them, I want to talk. I said, I'd have to talk. And the pastor goes, really? I think I want to share my story. Everyone knows my story, di ba? But I just had to do it. So they allowed me. And the pastor said at the time, Pastor Paul Chase said to me, what exactly are you going to say? So I'm going to tell them like it is. I'm going to tell everybody my testimony. Why? What isn't my testimony we're talking about? And I came out and told everybody how I needed to find my smile. Those are my exact words.
I had
to find, and I said the same thing, coincidentally, at the end when I actually retired from ASAP during that time. And my final words to the people were, I cannot live this lie anymore. I've got to find my smile. So when I went to church that 2 Sundays after, I had to tell everyone, I'm going to be leaving. I need to find my smile. And that's when my relationship with God became tighter, because I had no one to talk to, no one wanted to be with me, no one wanted to listen to you, no one wanted to listen to me except the press. The press loves that kind of a story.
We're talking to the Concert King, but I want to ask you, was there a time when you just wanted everything over? I don't want to live, I don't want this career, I want to die. Did it get to that point?
It's happened to me, I think, twice in my whole life. One was when the marriage failed. And when I tried to fix...
This was the time when you were driving in the highway.
Very good.
Of course, I remember.
I was driving down the South Shore Highway, and I was on the phone with my good friend Louie Ocampo, on the cell phone, big cell phone. And I said, Louie, because Like, come on, let's talk, stop. No, I can't take this anymore. I can't take this. I want to fix what I broke, but she won't let me. She won't let me. He says, you hurt her already. That's what happens. Give her time. I said, no, I want it now. I want it now. I can't take this. He goes, stop the car. Stop the car. Where are you? And it's a highway, and I see this 10-wheeler truck parked on the, the emergency lane, where they're not supposed to be, but they're parked there. I said, that's it. This is my end. And I went to the emergency lane, and I stepped on the gas really fast, and I just threw my phone. So Louis heard the whole ordeal, because I didn't hang up. And I'm flying, and I'm screaming, and my eyes are closed. And then I find myself slamming on the brakes in the middle of the road, and there was no truck, there was no cars behind me, no cars in front of me, and I was in the middle of the superhighway, right past Sukat, the Sukat exit. And I was in the middle of the road with nobody. Did you think you were in heaven? I thought it was, I wasn't in heaven, and that's for sure. Sukat, have you ever been there? That's not heaven at all. Be at home place, but it ain't heaven.
Yeah.
It ain't heaven.
But the intent was really just, I just want to go. I just want to kill myself. I just want to die.
And I didn't want to feel anything. I didn't want to feel anything anymore. I didn't want to feel regret. I didn't want to feel sadness. I don't want to feel happiness. I don't want to feel, I just want not to feel anymore. And then when I found myself in the middle of the road with nobody there, a phone going, Martin, hello, Louis, I'll call you back. I said, I realized it was a miracle, because either I imagined the truck, or the truck was put there for me to see that this shortcut that I'm planning to take is not worth it. And I'm here now alive to tell you the story that there really was a truck. I swear there was a truck.
And there is a God.
And that there is a God. That's proof.
That was the first experience. What was the second one?
That was the last, first and last. The first,
that was the first one.
Actually, that was the second time that I ever wanted to take my life. The first time I took all these, during the time when I was swearing in the church, I took all these pills, and I thought I was going to, not wake up.
I also know that.
You know that from Bettina?
Or
Chismosa si Bettina.
Yes.
Chismosa.
Yeah.
I took like 12 Ponstan.
Ponstan.
It looked like a dangerous drug at the time, okay? I was 19. I took 12 Ponstan. Even now, if you slap me now, I won't feel it. That's how numb I am. There's nothing there. Come on, take it out. That's why you thought the media doesn't use anesthesia with me, because it's still there, the Ponstan.
Looking back at those two experiences, in that context, in that respect, what have you become?
I think I'm a better person now. I don't think I'm a perfect person. No, not at all. But have I learned from these experiences? The fact that I can talk about it now with a cheerful heart and with hoping it'll touch someone who maybe not in this room, but I mean, it'll tell a story that people can use to stop their own stupidity, then it's worth telling. But really, I'm ashamed of those days of my life, but I am a human being. I'm not perfect in any sense of the word. And I think now I'm a better singer. I'm so humble. I mean, every and any project that comes my way, I feel is a blessing. Everything that's given to me now is not taken for granted. I don't take anything lightly anymore. I don't take people for granted as I did before. It's really was a huge wake-up call for me.
God gives you the chance to talk to that young Martin Nievera. What would you say to him?
I would ask him a question. I would say to the young Martin Nievera, I would say, what were you thinking? Where is this going? All questions. There's not one thing you could tell the young Martin Nievera, because back then he wasn't listening. You could say anything until you're blue in the face, but he wasn't listening. So
why wasn't he listening?
He was stubborn. He was sure that he was in the right, and he's used to getting what he wants, because he's the concert king. Yeah, he's used to getting whatever the hell he wants, and he wants it now, he gets it now. Such is life. It doesn't work out that way.
Okay. And today, he listens.
Oh yeah, I have to. I listen to everybody, even people who have absolutely no idea what they're talking about.
That's the best way to do it. Sometimes the most brilliant ideas come from people who don't know what they're talking about.
You know how hard it is for a singer of my generation to listen to these new young singers who can do these acrobatic moves.
It's painful.
It's so painful, but you know what? It's more painful if you don't listen.
That's right.
If you dictate and you say, I'm the concert king, this is the way it's gotta be, you're on your way out. The only way in my business, the only way I'm going to last in this business is A, I'm grateful, and B, I listen.
Will you ever stop singing?
Never. Never. I see myself singing even when the people don't want to hear it.
And I believe him. I believe him.
You'll find me in a karaoke. Can you believe that? My job is to sing, but I'll challenge anyone to karaoke.
That's right.
I will.
And I believe you. If you have to sing to the whales, you will.
To the who?
To the whales.
I sang to the whales this morning.
I know.
How do you sing it?
No, I haven't. I'm Butanding.
Who?
Butanding. Butan.
Butanding.
Butanding.
Butanding. I have to make sure.
I like the way he says it.
Sounds like a
Butanding.
swear word. Butanding, you know.
Am I right? Butanding.
So the mother of the whale is
Butanding.
you know. That's why I'm a Silliman.
No, you know why?
A silly man. I know that's not my joke. That's your joke. I know. Dumaguete?
But that's the whole
Dumaguete?
That's the whole trick.
Dumaguete? Did you get it? Dumaguete.
Dumaguete.
My God, eat some. There's no alcohol here. Obviously, there's no alcohol.
But when you're able to do a joke and perform it as if it is written for you when, well, you've got it made, diba? I've been saying, what did you say about Silliman? You know, well, talking about Silliman, out there I was saying, it is with such great honor and pleasure that we are here because this is one of the most revered places in the world. You know, some of the best writers came from the school. And early on in my career, as a pole dancer, I used to read, not really, but some of the most respected names in the literary world come from this place. And what an honor it is to be here. I'm sure some of them were in this auditorium where Martin Nievera and I are talking about grief. Diba?
Yes.
You know, the reason why I just had to go to the stories is because I wanted to be able to share with you, ladies and gentlemen, that even, this is a misconception, that when you are in the celebrity business, you don't have the right to cry, that you don't know what it is to be depressed, you don't know what grief is all about, you don't know how to grieve. Not that I am blaming the public, but it is now a generation when I think we are connecting to each other in many ways, that you are discovering the humanity of people who are supposed to be superhuman. You know, one time, Marge, I was talking to a young singer, and I was starting to slowly tell the story, your journey. You know, I know that this young singer, let's not name him, was saying, it's a funny story, I don't think it's true, I don't think you're telling me the truth. The only reason I was going there was because I want young singers to realize that you paid your dues, guys. You know, you went to the ringer, that it was not easy. I don't know if even you remember this. One time, I bumped into you. I was doing a concert tour. We were together somewhere in Bicol, and this guy had problems because he was not being paid by a promoter, and there were problems. Do you remember that? You were in a bus. That was a long, long time ago. Superstars, super singers, the concert kings are like all of us. They have hearts, they have feelings, but they have a different way of articulation. They have a different way of narrating their stories. But pain, grief are not alien. They sing it every day. I mean, it's in every word, in every song that they do. So I just applaud that we're able to talk about this today with one of the best storytellers, not just in music, but even in words. I can talk about you forever, Martin Nievera. So let's talk about today. Where is Martin Nievera?
Well, this is my second time in Dumaguete.
Yes.
I know what you mean. Where am I? I am now point in my life where I am hopeful.
Do you know that hope is more powerful than fear? I just learned that hope is more powerful than fear. No, I'm still in the process of actually trying to understand it. I'm defending my dissertation, my doctoral dissertation, May 30, a couple of weeks from now. Yes. I will be a doctor, and I'm going to pass that. You know, if you're familiar, if you've been through a PhD degree, I think the most challenging actually is the comprehensive exams. I'm through it. The 3-day comprehensive exams. I'm through it. That's the most difficult. That's the toughest. Defending live a dissertation is just like doing this interview. I mean, it's swimming in a pond of water for a fish. I'm just going to rock it. No, but in my dissertation, I discovered in my reading smarts that hope is actually more powerful than fear. My dissertation, by the way, is maternal love as a transformative force to a renewed generation. I'm trying to connect maternal love as the most important element in leadership. Yes, I will try to prove that. That's my proposition. Because last year I spoke to them about my experiences on how I managed discovering Dr. Nievera, one of the doctors of Nanay, how I discovered Nanay having mild dementia. It was not easy. She was a woman who ruled my life. Nanay is my life up to this very moment. And how it was to live a life when you were losing it. I didn't know what to do. There were times when I'd sick and I just go up to my room and I want to cry. I would go down and I didn't understand a lot of things. What was happening to the woman who literally dictated what I was supposed to do, like Lolo. What an experience it was. I thought it was the end of the world. But today, I was talking to Dr. Elena and I said, God is good. Mark, before I could not talk about the possibility of Nanay passing on without crying. But today I can. Not that I will be able to manage it. But now I'm able to say, yes, she's not forever. That's a good step to something good. Hindi ko alam kung paano ko narating yun. But just honestly again, Bong and I were talking. Bong, my partner of 31 years. And what a shame that this country has no same-sex marriage. But that's an entirely different discussion. But we've been together for 31 years, and he just came up and said, when I die, I don't want people to be walking around my coffin and telling stories about me. Have me cremated, and I am okay. All right? And I was surprised, Marks, because for the first time, I said, that's what you should also do if it happens to me. I've never been able to talk about death. I've always been so... You're not afraid of death.
I'm not afraid of it.
I've always been so afraid. I've been terrified by the concept of death. I've been terrified by the concept of death. Maybe because I came from my experience with Tatay, who told me that when he dies, and he did, he passed away when he was 47. I was very young. I was about 15. And Tatay said, don't cry. Don't cry. Because we may be poor, but I did the best I could to raise you. I did everything I can to send you to the best schools. So when he passed away, hindi ko ako umiyak. Hanggang nahimatay na lamang po ako dahil hindi ko talaga ako umiiyak. Totoo po yun. We brought no cameras. Tatay was a small town politician. Usually may banda yan eh. Yung tumutugtog. Sabi ko, ayoko na may tugtog, ayoko na may camera. Because I was so afraid to remember that my father died. Parallelism, Lolo. I wanted to prove everything. I wanted to prove that I could be somebody for my father. And I wanted him to be alive because I wanted him to watch me fly. But he was gone. There are still days today, because I asked that question, when, alam niyo yung iniisip ko na sana buhay ang tatay, para nakikita niya kung paano ko inaalagaan ang nanay. Sana andito ang tatay, para I wanted to say, I'm proud of you, son, dahil you made true of your word that you will take care of nanay. So each one to his story. Each one to his story. And again today, in this very special event for EPCALM, I am slowly evolving with the help of wonderful people, doctors like Dr. Nievera, who's always there. Kasi dati, totoo yan. Totoo yan. Dati, Marks, I used to be, I don't like being fussed over. I don't like people coming to me, each to his own. I don't like people coming to me saying, you'll be okay. I'm not. I don't like people coming to me and saying, you will understand this in the future. You know, often before I would say, ikaw kaya may pagdaanan na ganito. You know, I mean, sometimes I discovered in the past years, dealing with the best doctors at St. Luke's, that sometimes silence is the best way to communicate. Just being there. And sometimes it's not being there, but knowing the person in grief that you are somewhere out there. So there are no formulas. I go to the office of Dr. Nievera, I go to the office of Dr. Dominguez, the doctor of my mother, and sometimes I just stay away because I can't even look at my mother, not anymore. I cannot look at my mother